good. So, Plato part 2. I don't know where my book is. Well, okay, so Karim, don't forget to remind me for the test. Okay, good. All right, so today we finished Plato. Ooh, who are you back there? Last name? What? Let's see. Oh, remember you. First letter? Okay. So let me see. K. Klein. First time, Klein. No?
No, I was just sick last week.
Ah, you were sick. Were you in the Zoom or?
Yeah.
Ah, that's why I don't remember people in the Zoom. Okay. So you're all caught up, Klein, right? No problems? Okay, good. All right. Good. All right, so Plato part 2. Today we do Diotima. So today it's going to be interesting. Last time we saw how the discourses were very homogeneous, right? I mean, even though they seem to be different in the content, actually we saw there was one common denominator, one guiding thread. Anybody remember what it was? What made all the discourses in a way alike from the three that we studied? Yes, Sargo. Okay, very good, right? All three discourses were missing one crucial element, the other, right? They were all focused on love as something that benefits the self, right? Quick review, right? Posanias, love as the edification of the self. So make sure you choose a partner who you know is going to bring you up, elevate you rather than bring you down, right? Aristophanes, make sure you choose a partner who completes you so you can feel, right, like you're in home, right? So you're comfortable in the relationship because they are very much like you. All good advice, by the way, right? I'm not going to discount the good advice that is being dispelled here, not dispelled, given to us. And then Agathon, right, whom we kind of insulted a little bit last time, but we all know that a little bit of Agathon dwells in all of us, right? All of us deep down, often. We seek love. Why? So we can be loved, right? So Agathon, when he's trying to put all the eyes towards him, right, is not acting very different from the way deep down all of us, most of us feel, right? So, but in each one of these three discourses was really about, okay, choose love wisely. Why? So you can be happy. That's really the bottom line, right? Happiness is the bottom line. Choose wisely so that you can be happy in love, right? And so what's missing from that scenario? I mean, it's great advice, right? But what's missing from that scenario? Like, how is that enough advice in order to make the love last? What is bound to happen that would disrupt this scenario about choosing wisely so you can be happy? Exactly. What happens now all of a sudden when you're unhappy with your beloved, right? Does that mean you have chosen the wrong partner? Does that mean you are incompatible? And in our society, we believe it is the case. As soon as you become unhappy, oops, I made a mistake, right? Let's start over. Go away. Right? It's like you buy a toy, it doesn't work. Okay, now time to, throw you away. So we have this tendency, right, to see unhappiness in a relationship as an indicator that we are not necessarily made for each other. Now, we saw that in the Song of Songs. Were they happy all the time? A lot of wretchedness, right, in the songs. And yet, right, we see that they made it work, right? So this notion that when your beloved makes you unhappy. Now, I'm not saying, right, if you're always unhappy, although, right, even in such cases, right, there is still hope, right? There are still things you can do in order to move the relationship forward. And the goal of this class is really to help us navigate these storms, right? So good advice, right? Try to be happy, but if you're not, doesn't mean you're not made for each other. That's the bottom line, right? That I want to add to what these guys are saying, right? So let me say it again so you can write it down, right? The fact that you're unhappy with your beloved doesn't necessarily mean you picked the wrong person. Because very often, and this is important, your unhappiness simply revealing that there is something you both need to work on. The unhappiness in a relationship is always a symptom that growth is needed, that maturation is needed, that transformation is needed. The unhappiness is just a symptom. It's not the disease, right? Unhappiness is just an indication, a messenger telling you something needs to shift, right? It's not a messenger telling you go cheat on your boyfriend or girlfriend, right? Messenger telling you something needs to grow in you, and perhaps something needs to grow in your beloved, something needs to shift in the dynamic. So very often unhappiness is a great way to progress in the relationship, right? If you receive the message, right? And if you really start to do some soul searching. But the problem is, as soon as unhappiness hits, this is when we start to look elsewhere or we break up, right? And so we miss the opportunity to really grow, which is the only opportunity I believe that is ever offered to us in this lifetime to truly grow, is this kind of very intimate relationship, right? Nothing will make you grow like this type of relationship. This will hit you to your core. There is no hiding from your beloved, right? You can hide from your professors, from your friends, you can put on a big show, even in your family. Your beloved, they will uncover everything, right? And at that moment, you have to decide, okay, do I look at myself in the mirror and, take a deep breath and try to change, right? Or do I just continue my appearance, right? My show, my parade, right? So that's really what we are seeing. At least this would be my critique, right, of these guys. Now, Diotima appears on the scene, which is unusual. We know from the way things have been going so far in the dialogue, right? So far the dialogue has been all male, right? A pretty chauvinistic, meaning women are not really part of the discussion, right? A lot of women or men also in the class were complaining that, how do you talk about love without mentioning a single woman, right, in the speech? So yes, there was this element. So now finally Plato kind of, in a way Plato is beyond his culture, right? He's able to understand that a true discussion on love needs the apparition of a woman. So Diotima appears on the scene. Now, Diotima, she's more than a woman. She's also a non-Greek, which is also very important because the dialogue so far has been strictly Greek philosophy, right? The worldview has been Greek. And now we have a new character. We have a woman who is also from a different culture. So we should expect with Diotima something completely new, right? We are now turning point in the discourse. Now, I promised you I would do this last time, right? I'm going to offer today, I rarely do this. Usually I study the text and I kind of defend the text. Today I'm going to criticize the text. Right? Rarely do this, but we're going to have some fun with this. I'm going to offer today a feminist critique of what happens to Diotima's speech. Very short, and then we'll go and explore what she said. What I noticed when I was reading Diotima's speech, so at first I was excited. I was like, ooh, Diotima, finally a woman, right? So she starts speaking, very much like any woman would speak. She's talking about relationships, love as desire, right? When you desire another human being. So I'm connecting, right? Because I have the same feelings. And then she goes into love as pregnancy, two of which are very important moments in the woman's embodied experience of love, right? As a woman in our bodies, right, we will feel desire and we will feel and we will perhaps experience, right, a pregnancy, right? So she's really talking about the unique, feminine, embodied experience of love. So this is new, very interesting. We haven't even talked about the body so far. It's all been about love the soul, right? And so here comes this woman with a deeply embodied experience, and she's shedding light on how the woman feels or experiences love in her body, right? So I'm excited, I'm reading, and then I see slowly, as Socrates is talking about this, right? Little by little, we leave behind the body and we get into this very disincarnate love of ultimately what is the highest love that comes out of Diotima's speech in the way that Socrates tells us the story. Diotima starts with, oh, loving is loving, being attracted to someone else, and then, maybe having a family and having children. So she starts like this, but where does Socrates end up? In this whole, she starts with very embodied story of love between man and woman, right? And she ends up in the mouth of Socrates. Where does this all end? What's the highest love, according to Socrates, based on what he says about Diotima? Goldbalat, you have a... Yes! All of a sudden, here we are. Oh, the highest love is not people, it's not families, not children. The love of wisdom is the ultimate, right? So it's For me, it looks like Socrates hijacked Diotima's speech, kidnapped it, right? Starts with Diotima, she's talking about very mundane experience of love and family, which is part of her embodied experience as a woman. And Socrates kind of like takes off in his own direction and ends up in this nebulous right definition of the highest love as the love of wisdom, right? So there's nothing wrong with saying that love, the highest love, is the love of wisdom, right? As a philosopher, who am I to criticize what Socrates is saying? But I feel bad that in a way Diotima was, I don't know, you know how you say mansplained? Do you know this expression, mansplained? It's explained for the woman, right? It seems like she has been interrupted, right? It seems like Socrates, in a way, has interrupted where she was going and has gone off in his own direction. So I am going to offer the criticism of this text and define it as the hijacking, right? Hijacking from Socrates, right? Socrates hijacks Diotima's speech and then goes off in his own direction. And I am not very happy with Socrates, right, for interrupting or manterrupting or mansplaining, right, what Diotima had to say, right? So today, in order to heal history or repair history, here's what I propose we do together. I would like us to try and work together on what Diotima might have said if she had been allowed to speak. So this is a little unusual. I usually don't do this, but let's do this. Let's help Diotima speak, right? So I'm going to focus on the two themes that she started. And today, especially for this next few minutes, I want us to try and try to explain, explore what Diotima meant when she said love is desire, and then what she meant when she says love is a pregnancy. Right? So in other words, she's defining love very differently from these guys, right? She's saying love actually is not what you guys are saying. Love is desire. So we're going to see what she meant. And then she talks about love in light of, she's saying love is connected to pregnancy. And I want to go even a little further and define love as a pregnancy. How is love in a way, in many ways, a kind of pregnancy? Right? So anybody can answer that, right? Male or female. If you knew someone who was pregnant, you know already the, right? We can already explore this, right? So let's do this together. Let's start with love as desire. So first of all, when you desire something, I think Socrates goes over that in the speech. Do you desire something you have or something you don't have? Yeah. Something you don't have, right? So desire automatically takes you beyond yourself. You should already be seeing how Diotima taking a different path, right? Desire, automatically when you desire something you don't have, meaning desire is going to draw you towards what you are not, right? This is the perfect case. We saw how if for Aristophanes, like attracts like. For Diotima, opposites attract, right? It's the opposite. You can see already how completely different they are. Aristophanes, like attracts like. Diotima, opposites attract. Love actually is the only force which will truly take you beyond yourself on a journey where you leave, where you have to leave parts of yourself behind, right? One could define love as an exile, right? Love is always, to a certain degree, an exile, an expulsion, a trauma, right? To a certain degree. So let's explore this a little bit. What does it mean that love is an exile? How is this good, right? What does this entail if love is in exile? Is this happy? Is this painful? How has any one of you experienced exile? Right? Certainly, family members have experienced exiles. Most of us in Queens, right? Our family members came from somewhere else, right? How would you define the experience of exile? Pleasant, unpleasant? What does it mean that love is in exile? Let's talk about this a little bit. So I open the floor to you. Let's try and fill in what Diotima might have said if she had been allowed to speak. So we're going to rectify history today. All right, I'm listening. And people on Zoom, you can also pipe up if you have anything to say. Yes? Okay, first of all, right, absolutely. Exile means you have to leave something behind, always. Right? All of our ancestors, right, whether it's even whether you are first generation, second generation, your families had to leave something behind, right, before they came to the US. Something was severe. Something was lost. This is the essence of sacrifice, right? Love, in a way, always means you have to be ready to leave something behind. Your autonomy, right? Your freedom, quote unquote, right? All the TV shows you wanted to watch until 3 a.m., right? Now you have a kid. Can't do that, right? All the things you want, right? All other partners that you could have, right? Damn, right? Cut, right? So much, right? You lose so much in a way, but what do you gain? What? Exactly. You gain this a deeper experience, right? So you lose, but you gain, right? You cut, but at the same time, as you cut, you grow. By the way, this is if you know anybody doing gardening, you know this. I'll start with grapes because that's the only one I know, right? When you have grapes, right? None of you know this, but I'll tell you. When you have grapes and they're growing, what do you have to do so they don't become sour grapes? Anybody know? Yes. Yes, you have to cut. Prune, right? If you don't do that, they will have tons of grapes and leaves, but the grapes will remain very, what's not bitter, tart, sour, and green. So you actually have to cut to help it grow. This is what love will do to you. It will cut you so you grow. Anytime you feel the cut, you're growing. You're becoming sweeter, right? This is so good to know, right? Because you will get cut, right? And just know, love is meant to cut so that you can grow. There's always going to be a part of you which feels cut, right? And at that moment, if you know that this is how gardening works, this is how love actually is supposed to work, you can actually embrace it and allow yourself to sweeten, right? Let the cut happen and become sweeter, right? Discipline yourself to become sweeter. We're going to talk more about how to do that. We'll have actually a whole workshop when we do Rumi on forgiveness, which is about the sweetening, right, thing you can do when you get cut, right? So we'll talk about that. I'll give some really, really practical advice how to do it because I have had a lot of experience with forgiving, right? And I found that it's actually, I think I get it now, so I'm going to share it with you. So there are ways, right, to become sweet from the cut and not bitter. Because a lot of us, when we get cut by love, we become bitter, we become cold, we become defensive, right? And we don't know really how to grow out of the pruning. And this is actually something we have to learn. So we'll do a whole class on that. Anyways, great. Thank you, Johnson. That was inspiring. Okay. Anything else about love as an exile? I feel like everything was said, but anybody want to add to this notion of what does it mean that love is an exile? Is this good or bad? Have you experienced it? How did it feel? Yes.
Well, this is not my experience, but someone else. But sometimes, like when, like how you were describing earlier, like how you can still be sweet and not bitter from after. Like sometimes, like being cut is like the best thing you can do.
You mean sometimes what?
Like being like exiled or something. Like it's the best thing that you can do for like yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? This is, we're showing something which paradoxically seems painful, but actually can become a positive experience, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, absolutely. This, another way to see this exile, right? Be prepared in love for conflict. This is also something that we don't appreciate enough, right? Let's imagine this scenario, right? You're dating for a couple weeks. Right now, like attracts like, right? You come home, you're like, oh my God, he loves all the same music. He read all the same books, and you're like ecstatic, right? It's so nice, these first days of love, right? It's a complete illusion. It's nice, it's nice. It's fantasy world you've created. Anyway, so here you are, so happy everything is aligned, right? And then comes the first conflict. You realize he's a Republican or a Democrat, worse, right? It's like, oh my God, I can't, no, this cannot happen, right? So now you have the first deal breaker conflict thing, right? And now you're starting to seriously question whether you're compatible because there is a conflict. What do we learn from this idea that love is supposed to be, that love is a desire for something you are not, that love is an exile? What is Diotima telling us about this first conflict? What would she whisper in your ear as you're calculating whether you should walk out the door? What would Diotima tell you? Exactly, why?
Because you can't just leave.
That's true, but why should you not leave? Why should you stick around with this Republican or Democrat? Or worse, what's the other one? The one that's libertarian is the third one. Why shouldn't you leave? I mean, come on. I mean, think about it. Seriously, I'm thinking about it. Republican, Democrat, can you do that? You know? Some of you are like, yes, but yeah.
You're going to face conflict eventually, so it's going to help you out and grow.
Okay, very good, right? Conflict beyond yourself, broader, period. That's the idea, right? Any conflict then is supposed to, conflict is always an indication that there's a widening you need to do, that there's an expansion that needs to happen in your mind and in your worldview. That's conflict. Conflict always means there's an other knocking on your door. Conflict always is the indication that there's a whole world out there waiting to be discovered. That's conflict. Anytime there's a conflict, that means there is an other that has just sprung into your life. And this other is about to open up a whole cosmos before your eyes. And so conflict is always an opportunity for you to broaden. If you don't broaden, you stay in the what do you call this? What? No, just like when you go like that. Yeah. Right. It will remain friction until you broaden. You see what I mean? So this is what, very often we stay like this, right? Always fighting, because nobody has the idea to expand. Ooh, let me hear what you have to say. What do you mean by that? Oh, I see what you mean. I get it. I hear you. No more conflict, right? So very often, right, we miss the opportunity to expand and to grow, and we get stuck in the friction, right? And so this is, again, right, Diotima is inviting us. Conflict is always an opportunity for you to move beyond yourself, to transcend yourself, to expand your universe, right? I mean, you know, if you really want to expand your mind, you don't need drugs, right? Just get married and stay married. I mean, of course, if you let it, right? Because some people stay very small. So that's the idea, right? Very good. Excellent. So yes, and we see, by the way, again, right, how close Diotima is to the characters in the Song of Songs. What she's saying is very similar to the worldview we saw in the Song of Songs, where you saw these two people in conflict. You saw how many times they missed each other, how many times she's wanting this and he's not giving her, right? And so forth. There is constant conflict in that relationship, right? Because the template there is the template that Diotima is describing. Love as an exile, love as a movement beyond yourself, which is a complete different paradigm than the one we just studied, right? And again, right, it depends who you are. Some of us will be more comfortable with the Greek paradigm, right? Let me be wise, let me choose wisely, and let me be happy, right? Other of us, we just can't live in that paradigm, right? We need the chaos and the drama, right? And I guess what the stories are telling us is that it's possible to succeed in both paradigms. Whatever your mindset is, if you're more Greek, go for it. Follow the advice, it's good. If you're more Hebraic, right, you can also make it work, right? This is the two paths that you have before you that can both work if you kind of follow the teachings, right, of these two paradigms. Okay, great. All right, so let's move further into this notion of love and pregnancy. And what I want to do, I want to push a little bit what Diotima was saying, right? And I want to actually see love as a pregnancy, right? I want to see how is love in many ways like the experience of pregnancy. So for this, you don't need to have been pregnant. It's enough to have been around someone who is pregnant. You already know a good deal about pregnancy. So how many of you have been around someone who's pregnant and you know a little bit from experience, or you've been pregnant, I don't know, right? Let's start with, so you will help me. Okay, pregnancy, happy, unhappy experience. How would you define it? Okay, mostly happy. Anybody disagree?
I think it depends.
Depends, what do you mean?
Some women have, pregnancies that are hurtful for them.
Okay, right. So pregnancy can be really tough sometimes on the woman. Depends on the woman, right? Stab, was that your hand? Oh.
It's nice, I guess, once you get the kid, but when you actually are, before that, it really sucks, especially.
Exactly. It can really suck. I'm just going to break it to you right now. Pregnancy can really suck, right? Depends, right? But some women, you're sick for there's a philosopher called Jean-Paul Sartre who wrote a book on nausea. He knows nothing. If you have been pregnant and you have experienced the first 3 months of nausea, you're the expert. This guy can go, somewhere else with his book on nausea, right? So there's constant nausea, right? You feel like you can't breathe anything pleasant anymore, right? You're in this constant state of sickness. Then you start to get big and bigger, and you gain weight, and you lose your beautiful body you had, right? And then you have the fatigue. It's like the kid is sucking. I'm really turning it into a nightmare. I'm sorry. It's like the kid is sucking the energy that, you used to be able to do sports and go out and play, have fun with friends, and now you're home, right? So pregnancy can be really, to a very great degree, draining, right? Depends, of course, on some women are very tough. They can do everything, right? But other women are completely drained, right? And then, of course, the experience of birth. Let's talk about that. How is birth like for a woman? Depends again on the woman. Very painful. Okay, so you are now going through the worst pain in your life, right? You don't know. Some women, they get to the point, I think all of us do, where we feel we're going to die. That's it. Right? And then you get over that. So there's one moment where the woman is like, that's it, goodbye everybody. Like, I'm going to die. Right? So it's very, very painful. So now let's go back to our topic. How is love like a pregnancy? This sounds terrible. How is love like a pregnancy? So of course there is good with pregnancy too, but let's analyze. Go on, Vlad. Okay, excellent. Apply to love now. Tell us about love. Okay, very good, right? Once you've gone through and reached the next season, right? There's horrible seasons where you're like, oh my God, I'm not going to survive this relationship, right? We're not going to make it, right? And then you move into the next season. You notice that, oh my God, the love is so much deeper now. We are so much stronger together that we forget everything that happened, right? So many times in love, the pain is, or the result that you get if you stick through the pain, right, outweighs the pain in the end, right? There is the reward is so much greater if you stick through it. Imagine a woman start giving up and she's like, I'm not doing this. Let's get rid of this kid. I'm done. Here, 4 months, let's get rid, done, right? If a lot of us do this with love. After 4 months of pain, we're like, oh my God, I'm done, right? I can't take it anymore. And we miss what would have happened if we had stuck with it, which is the birth, right? Many of us miss the birth of our relationships or the rebirth of our relationships, right? We start a relationship, everything goes sour, and we don't want to push, right? And we miss what could have been birthed if we had stuck around just long enough, right? And this is, right, in that sense, love is a pregnancy. How are you willing to stick with it until the birth, right? Or are you gonna give up before, right? And this is the question that we have to ask ourselves. What else? How else is love like a pregnancy? Yes, Dargota.
It's like a feeling you never experienced before, especially if it's like your first time. Trying to like, detail it. I mean, like you said, like at first, like it can suck really bad, but then like after you go through it, you realize that it's an experience you'll never forget and something that you can learn from.
Yes, and there is a strength that a woman gains through the experience, right? There is something, a woman awakens to her power through this ordeal. I think it was Beyonce who did this, who said this, right? She went through the birth of her first child, I think, and she said something really beautiful. She said, I never knew how much power I had as a woman until I went through this experience. And it's the same in love. We don't know how much power our love has until we go through the experience of the dark night and see the transformative effect that our love can have if it is steadfast, right? We have no idea, I think, as a species, how powerful love is to transform and to rejuvenate a relationship if we are steadfast in our love, right? And so the same way, right? A woman never knows truly her power until she goes through this ordeal and emerges at the end, right? So likewise. Excellent. Anybody else? What else can we imagine with regards to this metaphor of love as a pregnancy? Yes.
Like the way that the child is growing in you, you also grow in the relationship as you go by. child is like a very physical, like socks and size, but like throughout it, like you still gain something at the end, as you grow.
So are you talking about how it's a process?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, very good, right? Love is a process. I mean, a relationship is in a way like a pregnancy because it blossoms over time, right? There's a gestation process for a relationship, which we often want to skip. We want to rush to the result. We don't allow the love to gestate in its own time. We want to impose our time. What if the woman was like, after 3 months, she was like talking to her baby in the belly and she's like, yo, I have a business, like I have business trip planned. You need to come out, right? I can't sit around and go to that business trip with you, right? So imagine she talks like that and she's like, okay, come, right? No, it's the same with love, right? You can't push love. You cannot rush love and make it be born or make it reach its term. It does it in its own time. And I really believe and this is so important, I'm going to repeat this. I want you to really get this. Every relationship has its own gestation time. And the problem is very often we compare. Oh, well, they moved in together after the first 6 months. How come we still like, you home and I'm home for the 2 years we've been together? So we compare. Well, her boyfriend already, bought her a ring. And you, what have you done for me, right? So each relationship has its own internal rhythm, its own gestation time. And you cannot compare your relationship with your girlfriend's relationships, right? Or with your guy friend's relationships, because you are with someone different than what they're with, right? And so we have to accept and really embrace the fact that, well, my relationship might take longer to come to fruition, right? Some relationships in 3 months, they're married and happy, right? Other relationships I have seen 10 years. What's his face, Prince Charles and his wife Kate? They used to make fun of her in the tabloids and call her Waiting Kate. Waiting Kate, I think. Do you remember this? Yes, in England. Yeah, his wife, present wife now, they took 10 years to get together in terms of marriage, right? They were off and on, they were like roommates, and they were lovers, then they split up, then they got back together, right? Some relationships really have a longer gestation time, and it doesn't mean they're abnormal, just means it's a different baby, right? It's a different plant. It's the same in nature, right? You have some plants that blossom quickly. Some plants some trees are like this, right? Some fruit trees take 3 years to really give fruit. Other trees, they blossom very fast, right? So to really understand that your relationship has its own gestation rhythm, and don't compare it to others and then feel bad why yours is so slow or so fast. It's fine, it's your rhythm, right? So this is so good to know, right? You cannot rush the process, just like you can't rush a baby. If you rush the process, it comes out too soon, it's going to have problems, right? You want to really wait for it to come out when it's ready. And this is sometimes very hard because as human beings, we are under the impression that we have no time. We're always rushed, like there is no time to waste. Why are we like this? We have a whole lifetime to make this work, right? We are so rushed, it has to get done quickly. And we miss the natural process of maturation, of growth, which is so needed to have a solid relationship, right? Excellent. Good. You guys are very inspiring. Anything, last words about love as pregnancy or desire before we conclude and talk to you a little bit about your test? Okay. See, this was nice. Diotima spoke, right? We gave her a little bit of space. I really believe she spoke among us today. Really beautiful insights from you guys, right? It went kind of fast, but I think it was nice. Really beautiful insights, right? I think we got to the wisdom of Diotima today. So thank you guys. We helped rectify history. So let me tell you a little bit in the time that remains. I will tell you a little bit about your tests. There's the first test, right? Okay. So I messed it up in the last class and everybody failed, so I'm going to really give you good guidelines here. So I failed. I'm supposed to be clear. So take good notes right now. Your tests. The questions are in your syllabus. 2 questions, right? I believe there's a question for Plato, a question for the Song of Songs. Each question, 1 page, at least, single-spaced, with supporting quotes. So whatever you're answering, you need to... Yeah? Font, 12, 12. No, don't exaggerate. 11, I'm going to be squinting.
That's what I said.
Yeah, 12, 12. Font 12, yes, don't make it bigger, I can tell. So font 12, single spaced, at least a page. You can go more, but with a page, it's good, solid answer. You want to have supportive quotes. So whatever you're saying about the Song of Songs, boom, a little quote. Usually, I don't ask for any quotes outside of the quotes we talk about in class. So you can just stick with that. That's why anytime I'm reading a quote, you should be scrambling to underline it, right? Now, this is the key that everybody missed in the last class. All the test is based on only is the lecture. Don't try to become intelligent at that moment. Just be a dummy who just puts the lecture notes into their test. So, robot, computer, right? Do not try at that moment to be intelligent. Do not. I repeat. Right? This is the moment to be a little bit stupid and just take your notes now. Where you have to be intelligent is the way you took notes, right? Which is why I believe I told you at the beginning of the semester, take detailed notes as possible, because that is what is going to go in your answers. So if you feel your notes are iffy, go back to the recordings, right? They're all on YouTube. You can re-listen again, get your detailed notes, and then answer the question. So the test is simply there for me to see that you're taking good notes. That's all. All the philosophical, right, questioning part is done in the group discussions, during the lecture, and also in your reading assignments in the essays. So this is where you become, a smart ass. That's fine. Not in the test. Right? So that's basically the thing that the other class missed, and they tried to answer the test questions on their own, thinking about it. No. Don't think. That's not the moment. So any questions on the test? So that test is due Saturday during the night, right? And just so you know, I start grading in the morning. So, I mean, whenever you put it in, as long as it's in by the time I wake up on Sunday morning, I don't care, right? Yes. Sorry. I think it's this Saturday, right? Correct? Am I right? Yeah, this Saturday.
You said it's 1 page for each question.
Yes.
Okay.
So 2 pages total for the test, right? Okay, any other questions on the test? This class has no Sikh students, right? Anybody a Sikh student? Okay. Good. This class is actually easy, so I don't think you need, I always do a tutorial, like a review session, but I don't think this class will need it. If there's a need for it, I can hire the tutor to help. She can do that. So you can tell me if any of you feel you need like more tutoring. She'll be happy to meet with you for this class. So, and I'll see based on your results if you need it or not. Okay, good for the test? All right, the essays. The essay is the fun part. Essay is you becoming an expert of love, right? So what you want to do in the essay is 2 things. Number 1, you want to find a relationship crisis, preferably in your own life, so that you can begin to process it in your own life, right? Or if you don't want to talk about yourself, you can talk about your roommate, your sister, your parents, whatever, right? Talk about anybody having a problem. And ideally, you're the one going through this for yourself, but you can talk about other people, right? So you tell me about the problem that this couple is having. And then you tell me what advice Plato or Solomon would have for this particular couple. So now you already have some wisdom. You have some expertise, right, from the class we've been doing. You can already identify how to deal with some problems, right? How to see things differently. So see how you can help this couple, whether it's you or someone else, with the text that we have studied. And you don't have to do both texts. You can pick one. You can just go with Plato, you can just go with Song of Songs, or you can do both, right? So this you write very free. It's 1.5 pages, single-spaced. Please, the first page, I don't want a big title taking up half the page, right? Just start at the top of the page. Just put your name and then start writing, right? So I have a nice big first page, right? So 1.5 pages, single-spaced. And you can write as badly as you usually do, right? You don't have to have any special quotes or nothing. Just be spontaneous. You're thinking through this issue. You can write like a journal. You can write a letter to these people. Whatever it's brainstorming. It's just you thinking through this issue out loud on your computer. So it should be very relaxed. If you're not relaxed when you're doing this, you're doing it wrong, right? And then you will also hand this into the essays, right? There's 2 folders, a test folder, I believe, and an essays folder. So you'll put it in the essays also on Saturday. Yeah. Yeah, so just so you know, for me, what really matters is that the test comes in on time. So if you have to choose, please pick the test, right? And then I can read your essay later. But ideally, you bring me everything by Saturday or Sunday morning. But if you have to choose, I really prefer the test comes in so that I can get that out of the way. Good. Any questions on the essay? Okay, great. Cool. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.